Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 232. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wearing experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you look like you're in a hotel room right now. How could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, the Nova Open is currently happening, and Games Workshop doesn't really have much to show off. They usually do, but not this time. Just because we're here now. They're not showing nothing off. We are right now in Washington, D.C. attending the Nova Open. It is really exciting. And the reason that we are here is because Trench Crusade is here and we brought the demo board for Trench Crusade. Yesterday, we were holed up at the Goblin Hobbies booth, the Stampin' Plate booth, and we were watching from across the way, and it seems like the board was getting a lot of attention. Oh, it looked so good. We purposefully painted it super kind of vibrant yellow because a lot of these conventions, they don't have great lighting. And so having a bright saturated board in kind of bad lighting means it all kind of evens out to a nice grim dark feeling, but it's pretty cool. The Trench Crusade board that we made is for the Catacombs of the Blessed Dead campaign, our first ever campaign, a collaboration between Eons of Battle and Trench Crusade. And it is going live Monday. We're very excited about it. We've got the labyrinthine hallways of the catacombs filled with the remains of the blessed men and women who have died in holy war, and we have our own miniatures, our own resin cast miniatures, in the catacomb sappers and the grace of flesh. The Catacombs of the Blessed Dead is what got us to travel 13 hours to the Nova Open, and it is our first time here, and so far, it's pretty cool. It's not as big as our Milwaukee Adepticon, the greatest wargaming convention in the history of the world, but it does seem pretty good. We've seen a lot of people that we recognize, and we've met a lot of new people, and we're gonna go bother Goobertown Hobbies and Casey over at the Goblin Hobbies booth some more. No really big reveals from Games Workshop, although in the days leading up to the event, they actually had some fairly big reveals that I'm surprised they didn't just hold off on to reveal at the convention, but I guess they didn't want to, and that is a new Space Marine model that is part of a novel, but is also just a really, really good Space Marine captain. But this guy I haven't read his book series. I've been slacking on reading Space Marine books. I feel like I just read a bunch that didn't really jimmy all my jams or flim all my flams, and so I've been reading some Age of Sigmar books, but in terms of if you just want a really, really cool Space Marine model, he fits the bill pretty good. And you can now get the Warhammer Plus subscription miniatures. You can pick between one of two, and typically there is one that kind of stinks, and then there is one that is ridiculously cool, and there is definitely one that is ridiculously cool, and it is the Eldar Spirit Seer, who's like sucking the soul out of a Wraith Knight. And it's a really, really cool diorama of a miniature. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Emperor's Children, or the Emperor's Champion for the Black Templar, Bayard. I think it's called Bayard's Revenge. It's like a little diorama, and it is really, really cool. And I feel like the new miniature is just as cool as those guys. And then for the flip side though, for Age of Sigmar, there is a necromancer perched on top of a grave, and then there are two little skeleton warriors who are coming to life underneath him, and I feel like it's also really good. Historically, both options have not been good, and there's like one clear winner that everyone gets. But I feel like this year, it's a decent split. Like if you're not interested in 40K, there's a pretty good Age of Sigmar diorama. And if you're not interested in Age of Sigmar, the 40K diorama is really, really good. I wish I could remember what the models were for last year, but I remember there was a Gene Stealer who was just a Gene Stealer. And like, I think he was standing on a guy maybe, but it wasn't anything that like you definitely needed to have, where I feel like if there's probably a bunch of Eldar players out there who are like, I need to have the Spirit Seer perched on top of the Wraith Lord, or the Wraith Knight, or the Wraith Man. There's 3 levels of Wraith. There's the Wraith Lord, the Wraith Knight, and the Wraith something else. And I can never remember them because I know the Wraith Knight is the really, really big one, which doesn't feel right because it feels like that should be the Wraith Lord, but the Wraith Lord is the small Dreadnought-sized one. And so I get all my Wraiths confused. I'm not an Eldar player. But speaking of playing Eldar, I'm not going to be playing Eldar here. Actually, I'm only going to be playing Spearhead because I didn't bring any 40k armies. I was going to bring my Black Templar, but I don't actually have the new Black Templar's Codex yet, and I couldn't find the rules online for free yet, and so I decided not to bring my Black Templars to Nova. But there is a whole bunch of Infinity going on here, and I'm going to try to get some Infinity gaming in. And that is not all of the new things from Infinity. Corvus Belli is showing off the September pre-orders, and there are some pretty cool units available. Rama Task Force Expansion Pack Alpha, which is for the same sectorial that I want to be using for my Hak-Islam because I have the Maghreba War Machine. And the Maghreba War Machine, I've been investigating it a little bit further because in the Hak-Islam faction, I really like the bikes, the Kum Rapid Transport guys, the bikers, the really, really cool bikers. But they can't be taken in the same sectorial as the Maghreba, which I also really, really like the Maghreba Warsuit. And so these guys would actually be available to take alongside the Maggie, and I might have to. Other than that, though, there is the Imperial Service Expansion Pack Gamma, and they keep coming out with a lot of really, really cool things for the Yujing faction, which is the China faction, and I really like the kind of not humanness of a lot of the Yujing units. They're not human, they're a little bit more robot-y, AI-y, dangerous, but unlike some of the other things like Ariadna and the literal werewolves and werebearer units, these guys are a little bit more like technologically weird looking. And I think the yellow color scheme just looks really, really solid. Right now, I want to play almost every faction in Infinity except Yujing, but I feel like I could see myself collecting some Yujing miniatures. But one of the factions that I already have a bunch of models for is Nomads, and there is a new unit coming out for the Nomads in the Switchers Groupa. This is two little metahumans who are able to, the description of them literally says that they are normal guys. But at the flip of a switch, they can turn on their cybernetic enhancements and then have godlike abilities and powers, which is very, very Nomads. These guys are for the sectorial Tunguska, and then there is Corregidor, and then there is one more sectorial that I think is the one that's built around the Battle Nuns, but I don't completely remember, but I really, really like the idea of the Nomads because the world of Infinity is a little bit ahead of our own universe, but there is a group that is just like all of the outcasts, all of the crazies, and they live on 3 spaceships out in space so that they don't have to obey any laws or rules. But within their own little civilizations, they do actually have a lot of laws and rules that they follow because they all get along reasonably well for being a fairly anarchic society. What's also fun about the Switchers is that these guys are humans who have a bunch of cybernetic augmentations, but I'm sure that they would absolutely hate Aleph and the post-humans who have their minds melded with an AI, which essentially gives them superhuman abilities. And even though these guys are so incredibly similar to that, they would absolutely hate Aleph because they are Nomads, and the Nomads, they absolutely despise Aleph, the AI that controls the Infinity Universe. Well, technically they don't control the Infinity Universe, they run the Infinity Universe. Now, are they always going to run it in the best interests of humanity? Or could things ever go a little wrong? The Nomads definitely think that things are not going to turn out, but I don't know, I find myself siding with Aleph. It seems like it works out pretty good, and Aleph is the only thing right now that is keeping the aliens in check. Because in Infinity there are aliens, and we are at war with them. But nobody except for the AI is really taking it all that seriously. But speaking of taking it all that seriously, there are 2 more miniatures coming for Infinity Essentials, and that is the Yujing hero, Liu Gong, the Invincible Lord of Thunder, who is a very fancy looking miniature and weirdly human for the Yujing. I feel like Yujing often have very weirder or stranger looking miniatures, where this guy, just a classic guy. I mean, he's kind of got some wings going on, but other than that, he is just a man. And speaking of just a man, there is the Nomads hero, Wolfgang Amadeus Wolf. That's his name. He is a werewolf with one robotic hand, and he is a very spooky looking fella. I don't know if he's kind of meant to maybe resemble a little bit Sabretooth or Wolverine. I probably Sabretooth, because I feel like there's already a Wolverine-y kind of guy in Infinity, but this guy does look really cool. My plan for Nomads is I'm going to finish my Pano faction, and then I think I'm probably going to work on my Hak Islam faction, and then I'm going to save the Pano for last, or the Nomads for last, because I really want to do a really good job on all of their miniatures. They have this lovely red art style to their armor, and I really, really want to get it exactly right. So it's going to be tricky, but I have a lot of Infinity to paint. I mean, I'm at the Nova Open, and there is an Infinity booth here, so there's a Warsenal booth too. I am very tempted to pick up some more Infinity, but I have Infinity at home, but I am not at home right now, so we'll see what happens. The Nova Open is giving me a lot of flashbacks to Adepticon. Adepticon is just the absolute best, but this is also a lot like Adepticon. I recognize a lot of the booths, I recognize a lot of the people, I recognize a lot of the minis that maybe I didn't pull the trigger on at Adepticon, and so maybe this is my second opportunity to get a hold of some of those miniatures, but we'll see what happens. I don't know, I am excited to continue wandering the event and finding out all of the different things going on. There is a Spray Gunner booth, and I enjoy Spray Gunner, and all of my airbrushes need some parts replaced, so I'm very excited to go check out that booth and see if I can fix some of my airbrushes that I've managed to break over the years. I've managed to break a lot of airbrushes, but you know what has never been broken? EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find our merch, like the Nick and J dice. We've also got wet palettes, water slide decals, and basing toppers and bits. And is the best way to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members get a credit they can use on our new monthly terrain packs or any previous pack we have ever made. This August, we are dipping back into the world of fantasy with some deadly terrain, the Chaotic Cemetery Pack. A series of walls and sculptures depicting the haunting stillness of death and the brutal cruelness of chaos made in the shapes and sizes needed for games of Age of Sigmar Spearhead, Sand and Bone. These perilous walls are surrounded by a set of chaotic statues in the Icon of Change, the Likeness of War, the Bust of Decay, and the Effigy of Excess. The Chaotic Cemetery Pack was made by us and is available on our website as STL files or physically printed for you. Really exciting to continue exploring the Nova Open. I don't have any painting supplies, and so I'm just not going to be painting for a few days, for kind of a while, and it feels really weird. As soon as I get back home, I'm going to have to paint something real nice, because it feels wrong. It feels wrong to not have my painting supplies around me. I think there is a paint and take somewhere in the building here at the Nova Open, so I might have to give that a try. Thanks for watching.